All right. So sharing my screen, right? Uh, so in the next class, we see about grid spacing and hierarchy. Um, okay, sorry. So grid spacing and hierarchy, right? So I think we for until now we have been doing like most part is we've not gotten into designing tools, right? We've not gotten into actually designing the screens. We have just been researching, doing some wireframes, getting to know the user, all these things. But since we have at a stage where we're going to start using the tool to actually build the app or design the app, I think we're at a stage where we need to understand grid spacing and how these or how what hierarchy and how this works in design. So before we get into grids, right? Like a real world example of grids. Why is a grid needed and what is a grid, right? So in a real world example, like how we used to see, like for a real world example of a wireframe, when you're building a house, right? The first thing that they do is, design the blueprint of the house itself. So similarly, why do they do it? Is because they get an understanding. Everyone, is in the same page of where does each room go, how many floors are there. So all these things get decided at the wireframe level itself. Similarly, like once you start building or once you start construction of the house, the first thing that you do is build the foundation. Like you lay the pillars, right? The pillars actually define the strength of your house or the strength of the building that someone is building, right? The stronger the foundation, the more number of floors or the longer the building can withstand, right? So grids help you to scale your apps. What I mean by that is, in real world example, consider grids like the pillars of the house that you're trying to build or any building for that matter. Um, so with this understanding, let's get into what a grid is, right? What are grids in design is basically grids is a foundational layout, as I said. It's a structure of rows and columns that organizes every content or any content that you put into the screen. So it helps you, lay out or it helps you place contents on the screen that you're trying to design. Um, to be very precise, this is what a grid is. But let's see what a grid is and how it is constructed basically. Um, like how a pillar is constructed using um, rods, cements, all of those things. Grid consists of three different things. One is the column, first one is the column, second is the gutter, and third one is the margin. Right? So columns are nothing but the yellow color bars that you see here. Consider this like your desktop screen or your laptop screen, right? The yellow color bars that run from top to bottom are your columns. And the gutter is the spacing between the columns. The margin is the amount of space that you leave on the left and right. These three things constitute, or these three things are used to construct grids in an UI design. But why are they important? Um, so columns helps you define, as I said, where your content is going to be placed, right? But there are different types of grids that we'll see in today's class. I mean, there are two more designs, but the basic three grids of UI design is the column grid, modular grid, and hierarchical grid. Um, these three things are defined even before someone starts to design a website or an app, right? Because this is what will define how your navigation is going to be, how your content placement is going to be, uh, how we are, the website or the app you're going to build, how is it going to scale. So all these things define or is defined by the grid itself. So even before you start designing, you'll have to fix on which is the grid that you're going to follow. Probably I'll show you examples of, websites that follow all the three different grids. Uh, I think this is a New York Times website. Even today, I think this screenshot I took yesterday. So this is a screenshot I took yesterday, and this follows. If you see, this follows the three column grid system. So um, I'm not able to scroll. Probably I think I can go and see this, right? If you see, right, this is like one column. This is another column, and this is the third column. Um, or you can also see this as your hierarchical grid. So if you see, right, this entire thing is probably one hierarchy, and same follows to the bottom. And also, if you see this on the left side, it's a different grid. So your eyes also flows in a certain way, right? I think the first thing that you would have seen is the New York Times, and then you would have come to the left. Like the first thing that you have seen is the Israel's this heading on top, and then you would have moved to the right. So grids help you place content that is more important for the user, or you can actually navigate the users on what you want the users to see first on your screen. So this is how grids help in putting things on the screen. The next Yeah, this is the website of Pinterest. And if you see this, right, this is the column grid. The first example that I showed you, right, the three things, column, modular, hierarchical. This is probably the hierarchical layout. And this is your column layout. And this is your modular grid layout. This is, again, the site of Gigant site. So this is again the modular site. Any site for the matter, if you take, you, I mean, you can go and check, right? Any site for that matter, you can, if you try and analyze, they'll at least follow one of the grid systems. No site can, like I can probably, confidently tell you that every site or every app today will follow some kind of a layout. Um, so these are some examples of the three different layouts that we saw. And I'll tell you why layouts are important for you, right? I said layouts are basically the building blocks, or your like similar to your pillars, right? If you design layouts and start building, you don't have to design for different screens. Say, for example, this website, right? Probably this website. You can open it on your mobile, you can open it on your tablet, you can also open it on your laptop or your desktop. So, but the amount of content or the amount of tiles that you see here, probably in a mobile you only be able to see one or two. But on a desktop, see, I'm able to see sorry, five different tiles in the same row. Uh, how is this defined? All of this is defined using your grids. So probably the designer would have designed it for just one screen. And because they have used grids, right, it's easier to communicate to the developer saying, so there's something called as a breakpoint. So what does this breakpoint help in understanding is, say for example, a breakpoint is nothing but a variable, right? So for example, I'm designing in a screen that is 1200 pixels width, right? I probably define, say for example, from 1200 to 1400, the number of tiles can be 5. But the moment the screen goes below 1200, the column itself will adjust saying you cannot now display 5 different tiles. It will only be 3 different tiles for screens that are smaller. So screens that are smaller than 1200 are probably tablets. And for screens that are even smaller, say for example, tablets are somewhere around 750, 800 in width, right? So another breakpoint would be below 800, which will be your mobile screen. So screens that are below 800 probably follow a different grid system where the number of tiles again reduces. Probably I'll show you a GIF for that. Okay. Um, so let me have a different screen. So you're able to see this, right? Are you able to see this GIF here? You see, this is the breakpoint that I showed you. 640 is one breakpoint. 1024 is another breakpoint. So below this is your mobile screen. Below 640 is your mobile screen. And for mobile screens, if you see, you can only see two different tiles here. And from 640 to 1024, you see there are four different tiles that are visible. And beyond 1024, it's again you have a left nav here, but above 1024, the left nav is by default visible, but below 1024, your left nav goes into this icon on top. If you see, there's this menu icon. So you touch that, and the side nav opens on top. So I think these things will help you. This is why grids are very important. This is why I said grids are the foundation of, or they are very similar to how how the pillars act for the building. So grids also help you communicate with developers with ease, saying you don't have to design for this. So if for today, if you're not doing this using grid, right? So for example, I'll share the screen. Okay. Say for example, you can also start designing without defining grids, but the problem with that will be uh, say, for example, without grid, you're designing an app and then you're, letting the developer say, hey, I've completed my design. Can you go ahead and start developing it, right? The developer will come back and say, hey, how is this going to be responsive? If this is going to be responsive, and then by responsive, I mean by that is, say, for example, even this site, right? If you open the console, like developer console, and one second. And if you see this, right, this is not responsive because this is a Figma presentation screen that I'm designing, and this was not designed to be responsive because this app is available only on the website, and this is also probably a screenshot, right? So it's not probably behaving or it's not following any um, breakpoints, right? So if I go to a different screen and probably show you, uh, I'll show you something. I'll open the same brand's website. Okay. Now, if you open the developer console here, I scroll down. So this is the same screenshot that I took. And if I scroll down here, you're able to see, right? The moment the screen goes smaller, the number of tiles are becoming less. So this is probably your mobile screen. So this is where grids help you in defining or designing for different screens and also communicating with the developer easily. So this is why grids are useful. And right. So there are two different types of grids that are widely followed. One is the 8-point grid, and another one is the 4-point grid. Um, what I mean by that is, 8-point grids are mostly used for website designs. 4-point grids are used where, say for example, mobile-like screens, right, where you have very smaller real estate, but you need to accommodate a lot more information. So in this class, we'll see four, which also will cover the 8-point grid system. Um, 4-point grid system is basically any um, how do I say, the spacing between elements or your columns, all of that will be in multiples of four. So, for example, you'll have to, when you're defining a grid system, right, you'll have to pick your base number, base variable, which is in this case, it's four. And any number after that will be multiples of this four. So, 4 to the 8 and 4 to the 12, right? So, these are fixed numbers that you'll be using when you're defining your not just grids, but also spacing inside your mobile app. So I'll show you a small example of that. Right? This is not exactly grid, but this is again spacing. So spacing and grid are not the same, but they can follow this grid system, 4-point grid system or 8-point grid system. So if you're going to say, I'm going to follow the 4-point grid system, what I mean by that is, probably I'll show you again, right? Say for example, I'll just put a screen there. So if you see this screen follows the 4-point grid system. This is the grid, right? The column grid that I showed you. And any element that I'm putting inside the screen will be edge to edge, left to right, right? So how do I, get this or design this grid, right? So this is the Figma tool. I will probably everyone would knowing by this time. I'm deleting this for now. But when I say on the right side, if you're able to see, this is called as a layout grid. When I go click on this, this by default shows me a 10-point grid. Right? This is the square grid. Now I want to change it to the column grid. I'm changing this to the column grid here. And by default, it is a 5-point grid. So I don't want the 5-point grid because the reason we don't use a 5-point grid is the screen sizes, right? Like the different dimensions or the width of the screen sizes are in multiples of 4. That is the reason we're also going with the 4-point grid in most cases. And this is the grid system that's been widely used across all the industries or any ad that you see, for example. So the number of columns that I would want to count is 4. So now it is 4, right? And margin is basically, as I told you, the amount of spaces that you leave on the edges, basically left and right. And since you guys are also attending different classes, you now by know what a margin is also. So margin is again in multiples of 4. So I'm giving your 16. And gutter, as I said, gutter is the spacing between two different columns. So if you see, if I give this a 0, right, there'll be no spacing between the numbers. So as in when I increase this, you say able to see, right, the gutter, the white space here increases. But for me, I want the gutter to be 16. So I'm giving this also as 16, right? So this is the 4-point grid that you're going to follow for mobile. But why is this or how is this going to help? Say, for example, tomorrow I'm going to place a tile, right? Two different tiles. Say, for example, I'll just put it here. I'll place it within this. I'll not go beyond this. Say, for example, this is a tile which is an image, and then there is some information, um, you know, uh, tile name, right? I'll probably place it here, and I can also place another card here on the right side. So this is where defining layouts helps, and this is how you also define the layout. You also have another uh, row style grid system, but we are not going into depth of this. We'll only focus on the column layout. So the app that you're going to design, make sure you follow the 4-point grid system, right? Um, so we'll also get into spacing now. Since I've shown you how to set up a grid system, we'll go into spacing, right? So um, spacing is nothing but again the as the name gives itself, right? This spacing is nothing but the space that you're going to define between each element. This also helps in easier readability, helps the user to have a very cohesive, or helps the designer to have a very cohesive design in terms of grouping things together to help you group similar things together and all of those things. So if you see here, right, I think there's a miss here, this 18 and this 18. But since you have said it's a 4-point grid system, the spacing is also going to be in multiples of 4. And why is this spacing important? Spacing will again, make your design uniform. You can maintain consistency if you're going to say my spacing is going to be within the multiples of 4. I'm going to not deviate from this. So say for example, the spacing between this, right? The reason this is 32 and this is 20, actually there's a difference. The reason this meeting organizer is 16 and this is 32, there's a difference because meeting organizer and the image below are together. They are the same thing. They're not different, right? And spacing is not just left to right. It can also be, it's not about top to bottom. Like they have only defined spacing in this image. It's between meeting details one below the other. It can also be left and right. So the spacing between Jane Cooper, the image here, and Esther Howard here, the spacing here, right? So the spacing that is here, probably this is also within the multiples of 4. So we should make sure you don't deviate from the grid point system that you're trying to use. So again, I'll get into Figma and then I'll show you what I mean. So I'm just hiding the grid here. But if you see this, right, um, if you see the spacing between the heading here and the subtext at the bottom, it's 8, right? And then the mobile number, this one, and the here, sorry, this is 10, right? So this should be 8. So 8 is the not, I would say, recommended, but this will this is kind of the standard that everyone follows, right? If say for example, because if you're giving your, you can also give 16, right? This thing is also fine, but sometimes this will define how you group things, or spacing also defines how someone sees things in a group. I'll show you an example of that as well. Mm, let's show you this out. I think this tab is visible anyway. So why are spacing important? As I said, if you see this screen, right, you now know the top portion, right? They are all one. What are they? They are nothing but different categories of food, right, or different food items. And the way the things are spaced out here, right, in this section, they tell you these are one different section, right? Because the spacing between this block here on top and the block here on top is more than the spacing between the tile and the title itself, right? So this is why spacing are important, and this will also maintain consistency, and it will also improve the experience and readability for the users. Um, and this, so as I said, yeah, why are spacing and XML important is will improve users' experience and readability, consistency, visual hierarchy, increase engagement, reduce the clutter, and as I said, improve collaboration with the developers also. And since we have seen what grid systems and spacings are, we'll also get into visual hierarchy. Any doubts before that?
No, sir.
Okay. But what is hierarchy, right? I mean, I think most of you would know what the term hierarchy means, but why is hierarchy important in design? I'll tell you. Um, Probably okay. I would want you to read this image. I'll show you an image. I want you to read this. You got it? Did you guys read it?
Yes, sir.
Did you guys read it in the same order? Did you read this one first and then the one at
Yeah,
the bottom and then the one at the top, right? This is the same flow that you read, right?
yeah.
Yeah, but why did you do this, right? Why did, like, both of you, even Pavan, I think you can show this image to anyone and you can ask them to read. The first thing they will read is this one, the heading here. And then the natural movement of the eye is below, going below. So the first, you don't, our eyes are, our eyes navigate any website or any app that you go for the matter, right? The first thing that you read will not go to the top after you read the first one. You'll naturally start, reading from the bottom or towards the bottom, towards the end. So that is how our mind actually navigates inside a screen, or even if it's anywhere that you see, right? So it's important for you to maintain hierarchy. If you're not able to maintain hierarchy, right, the users, or you will not be able to gain attention of the users, or the users might actually not know what to do at all, what information to focus on first. You'll actually lose the harmony of the screen itself or what you're trying to showcase. Say for example here, right? If you see, um, I'll come to this example a little later. But you see this, right? There are three different things with which you can achieve hierarchy. Um, one is scale, another one is color and contrast, the third one is proximity and common regions. What I mean by scale is basically uh, scale is how do you define the sizes of different elements in your app or screen uh, to attain hierarchy. So probably in a food ordering app, right? The first thing that you see here on Swiggy's side is the images of the food. But why images, right? Why not show the text first? Why not show the name of the restaurants first and then show the image? Why didn't they do that, right? Because the motive of the Swiggy app is to, or the Swiggy wants users to, uh, they want to make the users be creative, or they want to, kind of provoke the users by showing good food images and also want to provoke hunger, right? That is the main goal for them. If they show just the name of the, restaurants, or consider there's no image at all, will this even be usable? Will this even be delightful for the user? No, right? The reason they have put the images first is, or images as the primary hierarchical element, is because they want the users to see the images first and then only go to the other details of the, be it restaurant or the food. So I think it's also important to understand what app you're trying to build, and what you're trying to, achieve, or what you want the users to see first. Say for example, in a Swiggy's use case, the images might be more important, so they have put it on the first, or they have put it as the primary hierarchy element. But for others it might not be the case, right? Say for example, uh, oh, sorry, I'm not sharing this tab, right? Sorry. So yeah, this is what I was referring to. In a Swiggy's, website, the first thing that you see is the image here, and the other items or the other details of what the name of the hotel is and what is the rating is all a little less hierarchical. So this is the reason that Swiggy does this. But say for example, we have all seen Google's site, right? But here, right, there's no element of color, there's no image or anything. The moment you open a Google tab, the first thing that you see is Google's logo or the text. And then the only thing that, you know, gets your attention is the search. Because why didn't Google do anything here? It's been like this for years, right? Why didn't they change? Why didn't they add any colors, or why didn't they, kind of add an image, an animation or whatever, right? Why didn't they do it? Because they don't want the users to navigate, or sorry, they don't want the users to deviate from the goal of searching for something. Why do people come to Google? Because they want to search for something, right? So search is the only primary thing that the users want to see here is what Google feels, and they've not deviated from this for years. So I think scale actually is not just with um, so you basically define the size of different elements, and these sizes, um, define what the user sees first. So you'll have to make sure there are two different scales, right? One is there's also something called as a type scale. What is the type scale? Is basically type is nothing but a font in other terms, but type scale is nothing but how well you use your font sizes, right? Um, in this case, right? For example, in this case, so this is the heading. What's on your mind is one heading, and the Indian sweet reward gifting is in a different font size, right? And the top restaurant chains in Chennai is in another font size, right? So these are headings are in the same font size, and then the subtext are in a different size. So this is how you use scale, and even Google for that matter, right? They have not used type scale because scale here is applied to elements here. So you can apply scale to two different things. You can apply scale to either fonts, which means you basically play around with the size of the font, or you apply scale to the elements on the screen, not just screen. It can also be you take a biscuit packet or your chocolate wafer, right? Like the pay cover. If you see, um, hierarchy is defined there also. You probably on a chocolate wafer, the first thing that you will probably see is the image of the chocolate itself, maybe like in a dairy milk or a Kit Kat, right? Excuse me. So you can do a scale, the thing that we saw here, right? So method structure hierarchy, the first thing is scale. You can apply scale to two different things. One is the elements that you use, right? Or the fonts that you use. So this is scale. And in cases where you are trying to use font as your scale element, right? We would say, for example, if you're trying to say I don't have any image on the screen, but I want to play around with the hierarchy using different size of fonts. There's a rule that you don't have to, use like five or four different, or even more than five, six different font sizes. The best practice is to say, I'm not going to deviate from more than three different font sizes, right? So, say for example, there's an heading and there's a body of the text and then there's subtext, right? So we probably define sizes for three different things and then stick to that. So that's the best practice that you'll have to keep in mind when you are saying, I'm going to use text as my scale. And image, I think it depends on what app you're building or what you're trying to or what you want the user to see first, right? You do that. That is what scale refers to. And color and contrast. So when I say color and contrast, right, it's not only about using colors, but say the same case as Google here. Um, they've not used any flashy colors. They have just played around with the contrast. So the gray color, um, the search bar here, it goes very well with the background here. That is what contrast actually means. So um, how separated out the main element is from the background. So that is what refers to your contrast. Even in this case of, for example, I'll go to Apple's website. So right here, if you see this, the first thing that you will see here is iPad Mini, and then probably your eyes are attracted to the images here. But why? Again, Apple wants you to have a look at how the product itself feels. They have played around with two different things. One is scale and also the contrast here. See, if you see, they've also used colors here to, say, for example, learn more. This they have given colors to the button. If you scroll down, right, you'll see different colors they have used and scale. They have used scale with in terms of both type and elements. So if you see everywhere, they have put the product image first and then the title. So by putting the product image right, you are getting a sense of how this product is going to look in a visual world. And if you see here, right, they have used very well. So the color of the watch here itself is black, but they also have different colors. But the reason they've used black is to kind of give a very good contrast between the background. The background here is black. Sorry, the background here is white, but they've used the black color here. So this is what a contrast actually means, right? How well your main element stands out from the rest of the other things. So this in this way you can also achieve hierarchy, right? So in this case, if you see, probably the watch image is the first thing that you have seen in this particular tile. And here, this entire, you know, uh, tile itself would have, grabbed your attention because this is very colorful and it has used very good gradients, right? So yeah, so you can use colors and you can also use contrast to define hierarchy in design. And the third thing is proximity and common regions. The proximity and common regions are again nothing but how you structure or how you group things together. Say for example, if you're in an R use case, right? There are different categories of elements, right? So here I'll come into this example of the scavenger, right? So if you see, this is proximity. Proximity is nothing but the distance between this one and um, the one at the bottom. The proximity is important. Why? Because uh, the more properly you define the proximity, the more better your grouping are, the more better users understand or users perceive what are the similar things. The reason they have grouped these things, right? So for example, these things, because these are all top restaurant chains in Chennai and they all look similar. It's not like this image here is very square, and then this image is a different rectangle, right? Um, if you see, even by the looks of it, even without even having this title here, your image or your eyes identify all these elements as one group. Why? Because they all look very similar, right? This is where you can achieve another uh, hierarchical um, aspect of the website or the app, right? So again, if you see this, right, this is all again grouped in terms of the restaurants. So if we go somewhere else in terms of offer or probably go to the site, right? So here this is a very simple screen, and it will not use a lot of hierarchical here, right? Because there's not a lot of things that you need to kind of do. This is again a different, another different screen. But about Swiggy is, the title that they want to see, and here are different layouts. Probably this is the website that just by scrolling down, right, you're able to now understand. So okay, all these are like one group. They all belong to the one group because they all look very similar. And the next thing that you see here, oh, probably these three are, since I also have blogs on top, I'm able to visually understand these are all belong to the one group. So now my eye scans in a way that I understand. Oh, these are all groups, and they're all maybe in similar items, right? So if I see here, right, even before looking at the board members, I kind of got a sense of, oh, they're all in the same category. I'm not sure about, even before looking at this, I'm not sure about what category they are, but they all belong to the same category, right? So for example, if I put different images of foods here, right, what I assume is they all belong to the same category probably. This is how you group and define hierarchy using grouping and proximity. Okay. So I'll show you examples, another example of what color and contrast also means, right? So if I go to the Figma website, this is able to see. I'm actually showing the Figma website.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, if you see, right, the first thing that you have seen is probably think bigger, build faster. This is the first thing that they want the users to see. But they've also played around with different colors, right? There's a pink here, there's a moving animation here, and at the bottom you see there's actual GIF of, you know, how the product itself will probably look like. So Figma being a designer tool, they're not like Apple, right? They didn't, or they're not like Google where they just played around with uh, font or the type scale. They have also used colors and different images to define hierarchy. So what I'll do is I'll first probably say think bigger and build faster. The next immediate thing you will do is probably scroll down and then look at this image. Oh, what there is something moving here. There's some animation here. So what is it for and how does it look like? And the next thing that I'll probably do is right scroll down and then see they have used different colors to define hierarchy and also define different contrast. So contrast here also refers to
Yes, sir.
say for sorry
That time when you shared, yeah, we could able to see, but now it's you came back to Gmeet, no, it's stuck there.
one second. How about now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you scroll down and see right, they've used different colors here. And they've also used a lot of animations, and they've so the reason being they also want to convey value, right? Why they have put so much of you know product images or animations of how the product itself would look like is they want the users to see value in the product itself. If they have not put any of these things, right? They say, for example, there's no image here on this website, there's only text. Probably I'm not going to read through all the text. The reason images are important for a Figma like website or a product is images convey value. When I look at this image itself, right, I'm able to understand the capabilities of what the app can achieve. So all these things also matter, right? And the placement of CC here, this looks very colorful and playful. So this also immediately gives me the idea of Figma is a very easy to learn tool or something. So keep all of this in mind while you're trying to build your app. I'll probably show an example of how to just sharing my screen. So I showed you how I did this. I also have an example of another app that I took online. So see, this is an image that I took online, and this also follows a certain grid system, the same grid system that you have been using, right? The 4-point grid system. So you can actually take screenshots of different apps on your mobile and then try referring to. You can place that screenshot on Figma. You can see if it follows any grid system, right? And from there, you will understand why they follow this, and probably when you're trying to the wireframe that you did in the last class homework, right? You can probably try and do that here, like using grid systems and defining different spaces and also defining hierarchy. So yeah, that's it for today's class.